Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now, guys? We're back, finally, the international break is over, and it's back to domestic business for Celtic, where we welcome Hearts to paradise, the first game after the international break that's going to kick off a vital, a crucial part of our season, and a game that it did feel like, for a lot of Celtic fans coming into this, had Hearts totally written off. Obviously, we've seen how the game went. They are still stuck to the bottom of the table, and they've had nothing going for them. We should have been coming into this game with a good bit of confidence, which I feel like everyone did, but this game was going to always be about the result and the performance that we've seen on the pitch. We broke our transfer record a couple of times over. The bench is totally rejuvenated and full of lots of different options and new faces in it. And of course, any good performance and result at the weekend is going to kick us on and really set us up for the midweek before we then go on into cup action and, continue with the rest of the Champions League and the league and all the rest of it. But this is a game that Celtic did not take lightly. They showed up prepared. The Brendan Rodgers mantra, one game at a time. In the video today, we're going to break down the Celtic Hearts game. I was at the match, thankfully, so I get to give a good kind of 360 view on the style of the team, the introduction of Engels, and maybe the future of the post-Matt O'Reilly Celtic midfield, as well as player ratings and, everything else in between. At any point in the video today, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We're pushing for 10,000 subscribers, and we cannot do that without your support. New signing Arne Engels did get man of the match on the day. I wouldn't say he was my man of the match. We'll talk about that in the video. But I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. Who was your standout performer? Who was your man of the match on the day? And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Now, coming into this game, there was a few question marks on what the starting 11 would be, because a lot of the new faces that we did bring in were right close to the deadline. And with the international break, giving a lot of these players 2 weeks at Lennoxtown to get to know their teammates, the manager, the style of play, etc., I did feel that this was going to be a game where the starting 11 we see against Hearts would be a precursor to what we see against Bratislava. So it definitely left the door open for maybe if the manager wanted someone different to Scales, we would see Trusty start, maybe Valley for Taylor, and then the likes of McCowan, Engels, and Adam Ida. But the team really did pick itself, and it did go down to the most common projection that I've seen, that we weren't going to have any sort of change into the defence, the same sort of back four. It would be the same sort of front three we've come to know and love over this season so far, Kyogo, Kuhn, and Dyson Maeda. And it was just a midfield change of Engels in for O'Reilly, with Hatate and Captain Callum McGregor retaining their places. And this is a game that was a really big test for Engels in particular, as well as just the rest of the squad. Hearts come into this match with, the St Mirren, the Motherwell kind of playbook that's worked against Celtic a couple of times over the last couple of seasons, where it's quite simply have a bit of a back five here, have a midfield three that get right close to your defence and just really compact, make that central area really compact and really busy and really difficult to play through, and then have your target man striker with some legs around him to try and give a bit of a press, and then if you're able to turn the ball over, can you counter-attack? Can you go and do something? So this gave us, in both halves of the game, an obscene amount of possession. I think in the first half it's 75%, in the second half might have been 76 or something like that. But this was a typical Celtic home game in the sense that we did dominate the ball. We did force the opposition into their own half relentlessly. And really Hearts, especially in the first half, offered virtually nothing in attack. This was all one-way traffic. This was all Celtic. And one of the things I found most interesting to watch for this was just how the midfield was going to shape up. We see Callum McGregor retain that controller, that metronome position where he sits the deepest of the midfield and he wants to get on the ball as often as possible. He's going to dictate play. He's going to move the ball from right to left, which is all fine. These are strengths of McGregor's. These are things that we've come to know and love of him in a Celtic jersey. But it did strike me as unusual that we did leave Hatate really high up to still be this kind of attacking midfielder on the left-hand side of the pitch, and we were asking Arne Engels to do the Matt O'Reilly job, to do the same thing, but much more on the right-hand side of the pitch. And this did surprise me because Engels doesn't profile, and especially if you go and have a look at his career to date so far, as a guy that has much experience or much of a cutting edge in the final third. Now, we'll talk about his individual performance in a second, but I did feel that this kind of trying to keep things the same way that they are was ultimately the kind of undoing for us in the first half, because as Hearts got deeper and just compact and just made the the central area as compact as possible, it made it so hard, almost impossible for us to play through the middle, and almost everything had to go out through the wide areas, which is normally kind of fine. But when you've got Johnson having cutbacks, or when you've got Dyson Maeda getting to the byline and trying to squirrel a ball back into across the box, or even Taylor managed to do a job once or twice down this side, and even Engels, to his credit, managed to play a few balls in from this kind of area, a la O'Reilly. But you're then asking for the box to be absolutely flooded and for players to be getting into the right position. And although very early on in this match we did cut Hearts open, we had some nice triangle moves down the right hand side in particular, on the left-hand side once or twice as well. And then we were getting into some great areas to try and flash the ball into the box and try and, get one of those goals that we've been scoring against, them in the derby and quite often this season already so far. But when these balls were getting flashed in, they just seemed to miss absolutely everyone. We probably had about 3 or 4 of these chances throughout the game, and it was kind of knocking at the door. It was all kind of huffing and puffing and kind of going nowhere, but the confidence was there, the style of play was still there, and I did feel that eventually something was going to break for us. It did feel in the first half that Dyson relentlessly was getting on the ball, and this guy Jerry Taylor, who did very well against Rangers by all accounts, I didn't watch that game, he had a very good game against Dyson Maeda. Dyson is not a dribbler. He's not a winger's winger in that sense. He does want to beat you for pace. He does want to head directly towards goal. He's not a fan of taking the line, as it were. And this Taylor kind of had his number, kind of knew what he was up to. And every time it got into a physical shoulder-to-shoulder 50-50, Dyson wasn't really offering us very much at all. But because we were forced continuously to go out wide, we had a lot of meaningless possession in and around the central area. And it wasn't until we could work it out wide is when we could try and have that bit of penetration, try and get towards goal and try and make something happen. That then puts a lot of pressure on the central players, either the strikers or the midfielders, to get into the best positions possible and demand the ball. One of the best things about Matt O'Reilly when he was at the club is he would take the ball in all sorts of different positions, be very comfortable and very strong on, and be able to play in tight spaces and all the rest of it. And not saying Engels wasn't up to this at all. I would say he was actually quite good at this. But we didn't see enough of it from him. And we didn't see enough of it from him in the most dangerous areas of the pitch, right in and around outside of the box and even inside the box. Whenever we were getting the ball into tight areas, so often we were just playing back the way. So often we were just going into the safe pass, play back, play the ball around the other side, and then try and go around, any spaces that might open up from that kind of switch of play. And I really did feel that Rio Hatate let the side down in a big, big way today. It was really the worst version of Hatate that we've seen, in the sense of, he gave the ball away constantly. Any of his adventurous movements and passes ultimately didn't really lead to anything. There was a few times where he would turn away from his man. He won possession for us a good number of times in the match, a good ball-winning midfielder today, but he wasn't really able to transition. He wasn't really able to get us into attack effectively and set up a good chance for Kyogo or Dyson. He did play some good passes, don't get me wrong, but the peak Hatate and peak O'Reilly, get the ball in and around these areas on the edge of the box, regardless of how many men are around them, and just know the right pass to take, aren't afraid to shoot. And Hatate didn't really offer any of that for us, which did put a lot of the onus on Engels to be doing a lot of this. A lot of the ball was coming down the right, like I mentioned, and it just did feel that we were missing that kind of forward anchor. Like if O'Reilly would get into this position, all sorts of players would buzz around him, getting into the back post, laying off for him at the edge of the box, maybe even overlapping down to this side of the box here for the cutback. And we really did lose that kind of stronghold, that kind of checkpoint, that anchor hold in the final third from Engels, because he was quite often coming from deeper, and then he would come and support the likes of Johnson, Kuhn, Kyogo, whatever. And I did feel like, I'm not giving the guy any shade or anything, I think he had a great game, but he's not Matt O'Reilly. He didn't offer us the same sort of thing, and I found that really unusual. If you've been training with the guy and you know what his qualities are, that we did set up with this same midfield dynamic that we normally used, or we did use previously with O'Reilly. I was expecting a little bit more of something like this, and then we would have a wee bit of free run maybe happening between the likes of McGregor and Engels. Maybe this is something that we'll see on Saturday, or Wednesday, I beg your pardon. But I do feel that we really let Hearts off the hook in the first half, because we just would not go through the middle of the pitch. And for me in the first half, the number one standout performer, there was a lot of great moments for the likes of Scales, for Carter Vickers. Even Schmeichel made a very good save from, I think it was Shanklin from distance. I think he made a bit of a meal of it, played it up to the cameras a little bit. But Nicholas Kuhn, for me, in the first half, was the best player on the pitch by some distance. He was showing up in all sorts of areas, tracking back, winning the ball, not just affecting the ball or putting the man off and making him go out for a throw-in or whatever. Winning the ball, winning possession, and then turning and driving. And Kuhn, twice in the first half, went right through the heart of the pitch, went right through the middle of the Hearts team, and created a few really good opportunities. Sadly, the passes that he was trying to play maybe had a little bit too much on them, or they weren't quite on the same wavelength where they didn't come off too much. But Kuhn, for me, in the first half was a level above everyone else on the pitch. It was the best in possession. It was the most threatening going 1v1. This Penrice had absolutely no joy versus Quinn at all. And he was the real bright spark, I felt, in the first half, that if anything was going to click, if anything was going to happen, the industry, the effort of Johnson alongside the guile and the skill of Quinn was going to be where it was going to shake out, because Dyson wasn't really getting much out of this Jerry Taylor, like I mentioned. And Greg Taylor was good in this game. But it didn't really feel like a Greg Taylor match. I didn't really find him too much in the midfield being that inverted role. It did feel like he was trying to give us a bit more width, and ultimately, like, we just didn't have enough men in the centre area of the pitch to really rain down shots, to really create a lot of goal scoring opportunities. Now, with that being said, Engels had a fantastic shot, and one of the very few times where they had a nice little bit of triangle play on this side of the pitch, similar like we would have done with O'Reilly and the team. And Engels found himself in this sort of position here and wellied it right across the near post, and it would have been an absolute screamer of a goal if it went in. And like I say, he was very nippy. He was very good. I hope this doesn't come across as, like I say, I'm throwing any shade at him. He's just not O'Reilly. He's a different type of player. And I think that this is going to be the midfield dynamic is something that needs to become rebuilt in a way, because I don't think you can rely upon Engels to do out and out the O'Reilly role, as it were, especially if Hatate doesn't, lift his game. Because O'Reilly, if Hatate didn't lift his game, O'Reilly was able to make up for it, and I know Engels is new in the door. Time will come. Maybe he'll get better. I'm sure he'll get better, but I did think that I think that the midfield dynamic let us down. It really did stifle us in the amount of opportunities we could create in the first half, because with any team with three centre-backs and three centre-mids just crowding this box, then with full-backs coming in to make sure the wide areas have somebody occupied in there, it just means then that if you are going out wide, like, you really need to make sure the box is completely flooded. And because we are transitioning quickly and because we're moving at such pace, quite often, as I say, it just didn't work out. So often the guys would make the run, the ball would go behind them, or the ball would be in front of them and they wouldn't quite get on it. And we just really lacked that something extra through the middle. Now, we came out for the second half like a house on fire, and I thought we were going to get a goal really quickly in the second half, but again, it was a wee bit of huffing and puffing, and it didn't really go anywhere. I did feel that the referee and VAR took a lot of steam out of the game at a lot of different opportunities, and that maybe played into the stop-start nature of the game, and how we had a lot of build-up play without it really leading anywhere, because again, Dyson Maeda can get fouled 4 or 5 times a game, and nobody blows a whistle once. Kuhn, I think, was the only guy that got carded in this game. He was winning the ball in the first half, and in the second half, maybe it was a bit of a foul, but the ref booked him for it. I thought it was a little bit out of turn. But the second half, we definitely came out with a rocket up our arse and hopefully trying to do better in the game. And the tempo was still there. It was still consistently like pushing, trying to go forward. But it didn't feel like we had any new route to goal really ironed out. Then we win the penalty. Engels converts it with absolute aplomb. Cool as a cucumber into the bottom right for the striker. Keeper's bottom left. Keeper goes the opposite direction. And it really did feel then like the pressure come off the shoulders. We're winning the game. This is much more the control situation we want to be in. Hearts need to come out a little bit more, so maybe the game state might have went in our favour a little bit. And it did feel that after the goal, there was a good zest around the stadium. The passes were starting to zip around the pitch a little bit more. But I did feel then that the wind get taken out the sails a little bit with the substitutions. Now, Hatate almost certainly should have came off at this point, and he came off for Paul Bernardo, and then Nicholas Kuhn in the same substitution came off for club legend Jimmy Forrest. And this, straight away, I thought, okay, Bernardo and Engels, quite physically imposing midfielders. McGregor in this kind of anchor position. Maybe we're going to try and just kick in the door. Maybe we're just going to try and actually get the box loaded up with some of these guys. And then when we are getting down to the byline with Johnson and Forrest or Taylor and Dyson, we've got a few more targets to try and hit. But again, it just never really felt that was the case. The main criticism I've often got of Paulo Bernardo is he's not confident at passing forward. Ever, even if he is really tasked with getting into this area here, he really needs to know that the forward pass is on for him to make it. And it did feel that, again, we were just really recycling the ball far too often, and we went very, very one-dimensional, Get into the crowd here. And Bernardo, similar to like I was mentioning with O'Reilly, very good in tight spaces, very good under pressure, very press-resistant, as the phrase is. And, doesn't really put a foot wrong, will always play the ball to somebody else quite well. But never really incisive, never really penetrating through, trying to find the forwards, trying to find the striker. And the main highlights that we've seen of Bernardo last year that everyone thinks about is him charging through the middle of the pitch. That's not normal for him. It's not something that he does game in, game out. And I think we started to see that here. But as the substitutions started to come in for Celtic and for Hearts, it did feel that the quality of our best 11, the kind of energy that we were offering, didn't really change too much. But you did feel that it gave Hearts a bit of confidence that they could turn the ball over and try and have a bit of a go. And as the second half went on, Hearts became a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more adventurous as it went on. A couple of minutes later, we get Ida coming on for Kyogo, and then the energy of this team really then did start to click together, because Ida was much more of a handful for them than Kyogo. Now, we all know what Kyogo is like off the ball. He's a real handful. You need to watch your shadow. You need to cover your shoulder, see where he's at. But Ida, you know where he is, and you need to be tight to him. You need to make sure that he doesn't get a touch, that he doesn't get a run on. And Ida, like, there was a few chances that could have been played through, and he might have got a good shot away or a decent cross or whatever. But he ran the line. He led the line very, very well, and he really did put the Hearts defence back on alert. But the balance of the team just didn't really feel to be there until we got to the last 10 minutes, and then we finally got the last couple of substitutions where Daizen Maeda comes off for Palma. And I was a wee bit surprised to see this. I would have actually quite liked to see maybe Valley come on for Taylor just to get his debut, or even if Palma was going to come on for the left, the fifth and final sub maybe being Valley for Taylor, and then we see this left-hand side. Could Valley maybe help Palma a little bit more? Or, you know, could you see something on this side of the pitch? But no, it was just Palma for Daizen. And Palma, before we got onto the second sub that we had at this interval, Palma tried really, really hard for the couple of opportunities that he did get in this game. And it's undeniable when you watch this guy. Like, he can hit a ball. He can play a really good cross. He can really play a good pass. But he's just not a winger. He's just not really got that in him. So it was nice to see him get on. It's nice to see him still in the fold, hopefully developing in the background. But when Engels come off for McCowan is when I really feel that we got the balance back into the team, because Bernardo here wasn't going to be passing forward, like I mentioned. He's not got that high energy, that high tempo that Hatate has, that McCowan has. Hatate had a real off game, but when McCowan came into it, you really seen what we were missing in the team with Hatate's lackluster performance. And it was McCowan. I know he got the goal, and obviously you all know that watching it now, assisted by none other than captain and club legend James Forrest. But McCowan was a difference maker in the second half. He was only on for 10 minutes, but that final 10 minutes is when Hearts got their most adventurous, and at 1-0 down, we were asking for big saves to be made for Kasper Schmeichel. He made a good save in the first half, like I've already mentioned, but in the second half, there was like 2 good saves, but maybe about 3 or 4 really important goalkeeper moments where he was cool, calm, collected, did the right thing, saved the ball, and then like played it well from there. I actually left this game thinking if Joe Hart was in goal, we would have conceded 1 or 2, because Hearts did have some decent chances, and the big man made them look easy, and he really dealt with them superbly well. But as Hearts started to get more adventurous in this final 10 minutes, having that extra energy of McCowan, Palma did offer some energy in the final third as well, and Adam Ida really chapping at the bit here. This was what really did put the game over the top for us, because Hearts did try and attack, they did try and do something themselves, but the quality of the bench now means that really I think that the team was stronger by the end of the game than how we started the second half, perhaps, is maybe the way of thinking about it. Because of the balance in midfield, because of the energy that McCowan was actually providing, he was a real attacking threat, and because Ida was much more of a handful in this game for the short time he was on the pitch than Kyogo. And you can really see that when we look at the match ratings for the day. Nicholas Kuhn, for me, was probably one of the most active players on the in the match. And like I say, everything went backwards. The defence touched the ball an obscene amount of times, a huge pass count. Liam Scales with 82 accurate passes in this match, 24 of them getting into the final third. It just shows you how high the defence was here. And he made 20 long passes into the opposition, trying to play it down the channels, trying to play it into the wings. Carter Vickers is definitely one of my shouts for man of the match in this one. He made 89 accurate passes himself, won 7 duels, only lost 2, but made 6 interceptions. Also clipping a tackle, make a few effective clearances. The Fridge was in imperious form in this game, and he was the best defender on the pitch, closely followed by Scales. I definitely wouldn't want to throw any shade on him. But Rio Hatate, honestly, very little actually came out of him in this game. He did look good, he did look nippy in little spells, but ultimately there was no end product. Nothing really came out of his side of the game. Kyogo Furuhashi leaves this game with a big chance missed, again with 1 shot on target. He really should have opened the scoring. It was a great ball that Kuhn had played in for him, and if we went 1-0 up at that stage of the game, it would have been sliding doors. We might have got a much more convincing scoreline, like a lot of Celtic fans out there thought we might have. Daizen again quite ineffectual in this match. And Arne Engels comes out with an 82 out of a 100 rating. Obviously, the goal helps to boost that a little bit with his 1 shot on target. But he got into the box a few times. He won twice as many duels as he lost, 53 accurate passes, 25 of them in the final third is very impressive, only 8 missed passes across the match. He won a tackle as well, which was good to see, and he was fouled a bunch of times because, yeah, he was getting on the ball in tight spaces and Hearts were forced to kind of get him over a few times. But normally when we've been looking at Celtic over the last couple of months, we see some significant performances in the final third and from midfield, guys that are really driving the game on, playing balls into the box, creating big chances. And that was really missing from a lot of this. With James Forrest coming off the bench, getting his assist, he's not really had much to write home about in this one. But again, like, he contributed that little bit more than Dyson, that little bit more than Hatate. And McCowan, for me, maybe the statistics won't do him too much justice. He was only on the pitch for 10 minutes. But got a shot on goal. He played a ball into the box. He made an interception. He won a duel, made a few passes. But yeah, it was his energy. He really did. Him and Ida as the subs, as the second half attacking, press or whatever, where really had a lot of vigour in them, and I say that's not going to get captured in the statistics here. Bernardo come on for his period, and again, not really much to write home about. 16 accurate passes, 5 of them in the final third, none of them made it into the attacking column at all. But my man of the match today is Kasper Schmeichel. I think, like I said earlier, if we didn't have him in goals, we would have conceded a goal or two today, and that would have been a real sliding doors match, and it could have been a bit stickier. We might not even have got all 3 points in it. The big man made 3 saves, 2 of them from inside the box, a nice little bit of sweeper keeper as well, a goalkeeper smother, as well as 22 accurate passes. He didn't miss one pass at all in this game, 3 accurate long balls, which is great to see. And it's not sexy, it's not fun, it's not exciting to give man of the match to the goalkeeper in a 2-0 win when the record-breaking transfer got the penalty goal, and the other summer signing boyhood Celtic fan, McCowan, comes off the bench and gets a goal. So I totally get it. But for me, I think Carter Vickers and Schmeichel were the best players in the 90 minutes. I do think Nicholas Kuhn was exceptionally good in the first half, and if he'd done anything of significance in the second half, I'd have probably gave him man of the match, to be honest with you. But I do think this is a team, and it really does feel in this game that we never really got out of third gear, that we've never really pushed ourselves too much. It did feel like everyone is having one eye on Wednesday. I do think we're going to list the same team to play out against Bratislava on Wednesday, and I really do hope that Engels and that right hand side of the pitch do get a little bit more comfortable with each other and really do start to impact the box, really penetrate into the final third a lot more. Because if we play like we did against Hearts in midweek, like, I'm going to be 5% more worried than I thought I would be if that's the kind of play that we have, because it was so pedestrian, so left to right. There was no vigour, there was no initiative is the word I'm looking for, to really take the ball, drive through the middle of the pitch, make them panic, make them having to, battle stations, where's the ball, where's the runners, and really put them on the back foot. I just didn't really feel that we had any of that. And if we get to Paradise on Wednesday, the place is going to be alive with music. We're going to be out there with the swagger on, getting the huddle, playing the ball around from the back and looking at trying to carve them open. And if we don't have that incisive, that penetration through the middle, it just takes one goal to go the wrong way, and then the game state changes, and then you're really playing catch up, and that's not what we want. We want to be dominating the game. We want to score quickly. We want to score early. We want to control the match. I really hope that's the way we go. But I think Celtic really do need to, from what we've seen in this match, certainly, and as we get into Wednesday, I really want to see us more attacking through the middle. I want to see Hatate really wake the up again. And I'd like to see Engels grow a little bit more in confidence, maybe push himself that little bit higher up the pitch to get centrally, take a few shots on, try and put the ball actually into Kyogo's path, actually put it on a plate for Dyson Maeda. Again, probably one thing I never really touched on when we had the tactics board, but like, so many of the passes we were trying to play today were like little chipped loft balls into the box, and none of them worked. If we keep that up on Wednesday, I'll probably be quite frustrated with it. But overall, a good, solid 2-0 victory. A victory of champions, as you were. These are the sort of games that, hey, if you can win these games 2-0, then a lot of the stickier stuff, a lot of the more troublesome matches should take care of themselves. We're really in a strong winning mentality. We are a full-on clean sheet machine, and yeah, confidence is only growing at Paradise. There was definitely some things left to be desired in the performance today. The result's the most important thing, and we look forward to Wednesday, the Falkirk game, and then every other game that comes on off the back of that in this vital chapter of the season. I'm really looking forward to catching the comment section on this one to see what your guys' thoughts and feelings are on the match. On screen there now is some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more content like this. Hail, hail, and I'll catch you on the next one.